boss's orders with the trainer's mail. Gonna be able to make a selection. Could grab that Sableye. That would both put them down to 2 prizes, turning off this Bucephalon's full effect and forcing their opponent to get the Sableye back once again. Jumping right into this game, we've got Fire versus Psychic. This is a really fun matchup here. We've got the Volcanion for the Fire player and the Mew for our Psychic player. It looks like Psychic's going first and starts off with the Professor's Letter. Gonna find 2 Psychic energies right off the bat. I believe if I can remember correctly, I'm actually not sure if that's the Bench Barrier Mew or one of the other ones. That is a Japanese one, so might see that a little bit later in the game as far as which one that is. But on the Fire player side, we do have the Volcanion. Looks like it's the one with Fire Starter. It's actually a fantastic starter for our Fire player. That Flare Starter attack for 1 Fire energy. If you were going first, you can actually search your deck for up to 3 Fire energies and attach them to your Pokemon in any way that you like. Great way to be able to accelerate some energies, especially if you've got ways to put down Pokemon, which at least at the moment, based on their hand, doesn't look like is the case. But hey, you can potentially even power up that Volcanion. That second attack does do 110 damage if you have at least 4 Fire energies in play. So again, they don't have to be on the Volcanion, but you could wind up putting them there if you needed to. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's a whole lot going on in our players' hands. They're definitely going to be hoping they're going to find something. That Pokestop might wind up helping them out, but for now, does look like our Psychic player loses 2 cards, uses that Buddy Poffin. Going to be able to get some more Pokemon down, start setting up some additional Pokemon on the bench. See what they decide to grab. Looks like they're debating that little Esper. Might see something like the Comfey. Yeah, I do see that Comfey being considered. This is a Lost Zone version of Psychic, so going to be spreading around damage counters with that Sableye after they can get to 10 cards in the Lost Zone. For anybody that plays Standard, you'll be well aware of that Lost Mine Sableye. Basically, once you get 10 cards in the Lost Zone, for 1 energy, it can spread around 12 damage counters however it wants to. So it's 120 damage that can be spread around. It does get that Bucephalon as well with a Nest Ball. Already our Psychic player is looking like it's setting up very well. Our Fire player, again, going to need to find some cards, off of this top deck and maybe that Pokestop to actually start setting up their bench. If they can get some additional Pokemon down, they're actually in a pretty decent spot. Again, with that Volcanion, they're going to put lots of energy in play. Flower selecting does go down, able to retreat with that Mew. Got a choice between Lost Vendor and that Spell Tag. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see that Spell Tag go to the discard. Lost Blender is an, ooh, wow, and Dusk Call going down. This setup for our Psychic player is just very good. Decides not to use the Lost Blender for now and passes over. Pokestop does happen. Loses that Muscle Band and a Fire Energy. Though Fire Energy not too bad in the discard, can use something like Welder to get those right back. Or I'm sorry, Blacksmith to get those right back. Thankfully does find a level ball, so going to be able to get at least 1 more Pokemon down. Unfortunately, can't get a lot of good attackers in Fire with that level ball. Can only find a Pokemon with 90 HP or less. So might get something like that Castform. Maybe the Salazzle. A few different choices that they could go for. Not really seeing too many other choices. They could potentially go for Slugma as well. I believe that Chi-Yu has a little bit too much HP to actually be grabbed. I think it's 110. So again, not getting too many amazing choices to get that setup going. But hey, it is another target to potentially put some Fire energies on if they don't want to just go all in on this Volcanion. Also, the Saladit is not a bad choice either, because that Salazzle lets you discard an energy and I believe draw 3 cards. So great consistency card to help you churn through the deck a little bit faster. And does just use that Flare Starter, so getting the full effect, but all the energy is just going to go right on this Volcanion. Thankfully for our Fire player, 110 damage is enough to KO basically everything that their opponent is putting out. The Lost Zone deck does not have Pokemon with a lot of HP, so you can just set up a fairly weak attacker like this Volcanion and just start taking KOs on everything. That's 4 energies in play, so next turn it can start using that High Heat Blaze or High Heat Blitz, whatever it's called, to be able to start taking KOs. Trainer's Mail going down for our Psychic player, so going to be able to find a trainer off the top. Lots of great choices. Got an Ultra Ball, got a Fog Crystal. I believe I saw a Clara and then one other trainer, so not starved of choices. Is going to opt for that Ultra Ball. Might go find the Misprit to be able to evolve their little Esper. Could be a way to find some supporters from their deck. Does look like they already have the Dusknoir in hand, so they definitely don't need to go grab that. Could get the Metal Evolution of that Duskull. So Sableye and Dusknoir going to the discard. So definitely not going to go for that Metal Evolution, at least I wouldn't think so. Yep, they are already lining up some supporters, so almost certainly going to see that Misprit come into play very soon. There it goes, going down. Not Misprit. Why do I keep calling it the wrong thing? It's a Meowscat. So Chorus and Tulip, both coming down. Great choices. Going to be able to get that Dusknoir as well as the Sableye right back very soon. Likely we'll save that for a little bit later. We'll probably use Chorus first. Chorus will let them see 5 cards, keep 3 of them, and then 2 will go into the Lost Zone. So again, another great consistency card, as well as also filling up that Lost Zone to get you closer to that Lost Mine Sableye. Considering they do have the Chorus in hand, I'm first going to use that Pokestop. Does only find that Mysterious Treasure. At this point, not the most helpful card, since they've already gotten a lot of the Pokemon out of their deck, or have them in their discard. But like I was going to say, Chorus is going to go down, so 2 more are going to go in the Lost Zone. Going to be up to 3. Lost Blender will allow them to put 2 more in the Lost Zone. Could potentially get up to 5 this turn. 6 after they use that Comfey. Already looking pretty dangerous. Won't take them too much more time to have that Sableye online and start spreading around damage counters however they want to. This is definitely one of the crazy powers of this deck. It's just so strong. Can get cards in the Lost Zone so quickly. Rescue Stretcher going down, or sorry, Rescue Carrier actually going to get that Shuppet. May grab that Sableye, potentially. Looks like that is what our player is debating. Definitely a few choices in the discard that they could grab, but it does look like they're going to go for that Shuppet as well as that Sableye. Comfey going down as well, so going to get another card in the Lost Zone. Does lose that Field Blower. Fire does run some tools that you might want to get rid of, so Field Blower might come back to bite them. We will see. But that Fog Crystal makes sense. They want to get that. Probably going to grab a Psychic Energy from the deck. Maybe that Mewtwo as well. That could be a decent choice. Way to recycle some of your supporter cards. Might actually see them use that to get Chorus right back. But first, Mysterious Treasure going down. We'll see what they're going to discard. Opting for Arven. This is going to let them find another Pokemon. So getting that Duskull. Sorry, what's that Metal Evolution called? Dusclops? Yeah, Dusclops. Sorry, for some reason, those ones, very confusing, easy to get mixed up. But that is the one that you can use Curse Blast, so if you use that ability, it will KO your Dusclops. Then you can put 5 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. Since it does knock out your Pokemon, it does allow your opponent to take a prize. Looks like they're scoop up netting that Esper with the Meowscat, so going to be able to put the Shuppet down and then bench that Mewtwo, freeing up those bench spaces. Shuppet also a great way to not only get a supporter back from the discard, but once you evolve that into the Bayonet, which is where you get the ability, you can put both of those cards into the Lost Zone and then get 1 supporter back from your discard. But Mewtwo did go down, and I believe it was Chorus put on top, powering up that Becephalon with an energy, so it's getting closer to being able to be used, and ultimately passes the turn. Psychic looking in a much better spot than our Fire player. Evolution Incense going down, so getting that Salazzle. At least now they finally have something to be able to start drawing some cards. I think I saw a Fire Crystal in their hand, which they'll be able to use to go get some additional Fire Energy. Seriously out there, completely out of Fire Energy in the deck. They have put a lot in play, and we know one's in the discard, but 5 would be a very low energy count. It's much more likely that they've got closer to 8 or 9. So again, going to be able to get some Fire Energies and start drawing some additional cards. actually do already have one in hand. So Pokestop first. Ooh, losing that Gouging Fire and a Magma Basin, but does get the Rescue Stretcher, so gonna get Gouging Fire right back. Sorry, they did get the Pokegear, actually. They already have the Rescue Gear, so the Pokegear 3.0 will hopefully find them a better supporter than what they have currently. Actually, they do have Welders, so they could potentially... Oh, actually, attaching the energy for turn and using Guzma. So gonna go up with Salazzle, retreating, KOing this Duskull before it can actually KO itself. Good play by our fire player. Wants to take out this threat before their opponent can set it up and do maximum damage. First, getting a Fire Crystal going down, getting those energies back. Going to be able to draw some cards. Fire already. Great play this turn. Getting some additional cards. Continuing to set up their board and going to take out a very critical threat this turn. Player did accidentally almost attach again for turn. They had already done that on the Salazzle. So good on our Psychic player for catching that. They still have not used Supporter for turn, but looks like they want to save that Blacksmith to get full advantage of it. Takes the KO, gets a prize. Man, Fire really turned that around in just one turn. Still not completely out of the woods here. Their opponent does have lots of cards in hand, many options. Going to be able to do more buildup of their Lost Zone this turn. Comfy finding 2 more cards from the top. One going to go into the Lost Zone. See if they want to keep that Iono or if they want to keep the energy. Not sure what they might be valuing more here. It's kind of going to depend on what resources they have and how many more energies are already in the discard. Looks like they are debating that energy does put it in the discard, so keeps the Iono. Probably going to play Colress again this turn, so going to go get up to at least 7. Seeing a couple good cards here. Let's see what they ultimately decide to put in. Soon Heavy Ball, probably going to go to the Lost Zone. Likely doesn't need that at this point. I don't know if there's any Pokemon really that they could grab from the prizes with that. Guzma they'll likely want to keep. Could see them debating. Looks like... I don't remember what the name of that new card is. That little book that's on top. I believe it looks you look at the top 3 cards of your deck, and then you can either reorder them in any way you want and put them on the top or the bottom. Actually, a great way to kind of preempt your Comfy or your Colress. Make sure you are, giving yourself options that you actually want to put in the Lost Zone. So did keep the Hisuian Heavy Ball, so I guess they thought they had something in the prizes, but ultimately don't. So that kind of an interesting play from our Psychic player. I wonder if their prize checking didn't do that quite as well as maybe they would have liked to do. Otherwise, it would have been a perfect choice for the Lost Zone. But I believe they're now up to 7. Let's count that real quick. Yeah, we've got 5, 6, 7 in the Lost Zone. Could get 2 more in there with their Lost Splendor, which is exactly what they're doing. So putting those 2 Pokemon they scooped up into the discard. Don't need them anymore. Gonna draw 1 card. Does get an Acro Bike. See if they'll keep that energy or that Level Ball. In this situation, the energy might be a little bit more valuable. I don't know what else they might want to grab with that Level Ball at this point. I don't think Banette... I think Banette has a little bit too much HP to be able to grab. Again, probably most choices in the deck are already been grabbed. Well, I guess the player disagrees with me. They do grow for the Level Ball, so we'll see what they potentially get. No, maybe rethinking that decision. Didn't quite put it in their hands. Their opponent is allowing them to go ahead and complete that action. Does ultimately keep that energy, so Level Ball going to the discard. Lots of resources already in the discard. That discard's looking very large. Psychic player has churned through just so much of their deck already. It's really crazy how quickly they can go through that deck. In a singleton format, typically you're like, oh, my opponent will maybe use something once or twice. Chorus has already been used twice in this and can easily be used again if the player wanted to. Though at this point, they don't really need to anymore. Do have 1 energy going down on that Mew. That is the bench barrier Mew and does have the attack to let you put 3 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon in any way you like, which is looking like what they are opting to do. Does get that Dust Call with the Night Stretcher, so that threat coming back into play. Spreading around those damage counters with that Psi Power attack, 1 going down on Gouging Fire. Player debating where else they want to put them, 2 going down on that Salazzle. Charmander off the top. Ooh, it's already kind of late in the game. Might be risky to put that down. 70 HP Pokemon that can be relatively easily taken out by their opponent. Thankfully, at this point, not too many damage counters around. Player going to have to decide what they want to do this turn. Does have to go for the Pokegear, hoping to find a better supporter than what they have in hand. Fortunately, that Green's Exploration, not super helpful, so it does go for the Arven. Potentially going to play that, but we will see if they opt for that or the Blacksmith. Doubt they're going to play that Professor Juniper with so many cards in hand. For anybody that doesn't know, Professor Juniper is really just Professor's Research by another name. Is debating that Charmander. It's very tempting to always put that down, that Burn Brightly Charizard, a very powerful Pokemon in Fire. Doubles the effect of all fire energies in play. Arven does go down, going to be able to find a tool card as well as an item card. See what the player wants to grab this turn. Always difficult to decide what they might want to grab, especially when you don't know what's in the deck. So Floatstone does make sense. Easy way to give your Pokemon free retreat. Could potentially get that Volcanion out of the active if they want to, though really it's the only attacker right now, so probably doesn't want to do that. Is debating that Level Ball as well. Player double checking what they have in hand before they make those choices. So does get those, going to go ahead and use that Quick Ball right off the bat. Getting rid of that TM Evolution. A little bit late in the game for that card, so don't need it anymore. Going to be able to find a basic Pokemon, which is getting that Chi-Yu. You know, I do believe that Chi-Yu is not the most helpful in this matchup. I think it's from damage from an attack only when you use that Mega Fire of Envy. So our opponent, the Psychic player, is always taking KOs with damage counters, which is not damage from an attack. Again, placing damage counters and doing damage are 2 different effects. So things like Mega Fire of Envy that trigger off of damage being KO'd from damage from an attack cannot be used. I mean, you can still use the attack, but it will only do 50 damage. One of the advantages of this type of deck is those damage, those effects are not the most helpful. Things like Raihan also never really all that useful in this matchup for the same reason. Looks like our player did debate putting it on that Chi-Yu, but maybe they realized that it's not going to be as helpful as they were hoping, so puts it on the Gouging Fire instead. This does open up the play for a Blacksmith potentially next turn. Is double checking how many prize cards, or I'm sorry, that's the deck actually. I think there was only 6 cards left in deck. Does take the KO. So 4 prizes remaining for our Fire player. You know, this is a good example of where the prize is not always the best indicator of who is winning. For my money, I would say Psychic is in a much better position right now than Fire is. They just have this Volcanion as well as that Gouging Fire in play. They still need to take 4 prizes, whereas our Psychic player is getting to the point where they, you know, are really almost fully set up and can start just looping that Sableye turn after turn, taking KOs very quickly. Looking like they're debating between either that Misprit or Misprit going. I'm not sure what that other card was. It was a little hard to tell. I think it might have been Counter Catcher. Player does know that their opponent has the Iono in hand. I'm sorry, it's the Psychic player that has the Iono in hand. They, I don't know what I'm talking about. So looking at what resources they have in the discard, might be debating using that Tulip. Did look at a lot of different Pokemon as well as energies. Tulip is basically Nessa for Psychic, so lets you find, I think it's 4 in any combination of Psychic and Psychic energies from your discard. Sableye going down on the bench. They are at 10 in the loss zone. Escape rope going down. Sableye going to be able to go up in the active. What will our fire player go up with? Looks like they are going with the Chi-Yu. Sableye coming up. Tulip goes down. Does get, oh man, 2 energies. Dusknoir as well as that Duskull. Or Dusclops rather. Going to be able to evolve this turn. Gosh, potentially taking 2 or even 3 prizes this turn, depending on how they want to spread things around. They can take out the 2 attackers that their opponent has this turn. I guess, sorry, actually not quite. Can't take out both of those attackers. Finally bounces that Pokestop with a training court, so gonna start being able to get an energy back every turn. Looks like they are taking out that Charmander, does not want to allow that Burn Barley Charizard to get into play. Then putting the rest on that Salazzle. So ultimately doesn't decide to use that Duskull this turn. Can use that Float Stone, so can get a KO this turn. That will put them down to 3 prizes versus 5 remaining. This is where things start to get a little interesting, because next turn, again, since we know that Dusknoir is in the hand, can take out both the Volcanion as well as the Gouging Fire, assuming they're able to get the Sableye back into play. I guess, actually, they don't even need to do that, because that will put their opponent down to... Well, no, that gets a little awkward, because the Bucephalon is only at full power when your opponent has 3 prizes remaining, so that means you couldn't use your Dusknoir to take a KO and then also kill that Gouging Fire, which is likely what the player wants to be able to do, because that would put your opponent down on 2 prizes. So again, that Bucephalon not going to be the most helpful. Versus Seeker going down, going to be able to get a supporter back from the discard. Opting for that Guzma. Another good play by our fire player. They're not going down without a fight. Gonna take out this Dusknoir once again, not allowing their opponent. Also the Field Blower, getting rid of that training court. And fire really cannot be counted out in this situation. They just keep finding the plays, making sure that they're staying in this game, not making it easy for Psychic. Takes another prize. Gonna guarantee that they have an attacker next turn. Their opponent now can't take out both of them. And they had not taken out that Dusknoir, that Duskull, then their opponent would have just been able to take out both the Volcanion and the Gouging Fire this turn. But thankfully for Fire, they were able to get that out of the way and keep an attacker going. That will mean that their opponent is not going to have to choose between taking out this Volcanion or taking out this Gouging Fire. Does put down the Horror Energy, so another way to get a couple more damage counters into play, making it a little bit easier for Sableye to get a KO later on. It's like you're going to have to be very careful here. Their opponent is playing very well, making it very difficult for Fire to be taken out easily. Iona going down, going to set our Fire player to just 3 cards in hand, getting Clara, Super Rod, as well as a Trainer's Mail. Not the worst card you could have drawn in this situation. But net is found for our Psychic player. So might be able to get a supporter back this turn. Not sure what they might want to grab. They were looking at all the different options. Did already play a supporter, so they might save that for next turn. Really, there's no downside for our player to use that at this point. They can just save it for whenever they need to get a supporter back. They are debating how they want to spread these damage counters around, using that Rescue Stretcher. One more time, getting that Duskull back. They have not been able to actually explode this game and use that Curse Blast. Does use that Bucephalon's ability, which I do not remember the name of, but since their opponent is on 3 prizes, going to be able to spread 12 damage counters around. see what they decided to take out this turn. Looks like they're debating that Salazzle is a way. If they do take that out, might limit their opponent's ability to draw cards. They did just use Iono, so they might be valuing keeping their opponent low on cards in hand, but that will leave 2 attackers ready to go, still in play. So putting at least some on the Gouging Fire. And then looks like, yep, some on the Salazzle as well. Ooh, so actually did not take any KOs that turn. Set both of them up to be able to be, KO'd with just 1 more damage counter on that Salazzle. Looks like 2 more on that Gouging Fire, so that's 3. It leaves 9 left. It's not enough to take a KO on another Pokemon, even with this Horror Energy. Horror Energy would put this Volcanion down to 100. So again, not quite enough to KO on all 3 of those. Boss's orders with the trainer's mail. Gonna be able to make a selection. Could grab that Sableye. That would both put them down to 2 prizes, turning off this Bucephalon's full effect and forcing their opponent to get the Sableye back once again. Man, Fire just keeps finding all the things they need right when they need it. They are checking for the resources, seeing what they've got left. They are looking for ways to recover that Sableye, making sure this is the correct play before they make it. They're seeing that Night Stretcher is down, Rescue Stretcher, I believe, is also gone. So is that Rescue Carrier. Not very many ways left to be able to get Pokemon back from the discard. So does boss up that Sableye. I'm going to KO that this turn. I do think Clara might be in the discard, though, for a Psychic player with that Banette. Yep, looks like that's what they're thinking. So likely going to use the Banette here to get back Clara, I would think, to be able to get that Sableye. Tulip would be another choice as well. Probably actually way better than Clara. I guess that's actually the same thing. 2 Pokemon and 2 energies is probably what they're going to grab. Though Tulip, I guess, is really just more versatile since it's 4 in any combination. So far has not made a decision just yet of what they're going to do. So yeah, taking out that Banette. Both of those go to the discard. Uses that Tulip. Duskull coming up first. Do need to make that promotion. Gets the Sableye. Jeez, wow. Evolving that. Going to be able to... Ooh, taking 2 more KOs this turn. That's actually going to be 3 prizes this turn, I believe. They do put their opponent down to just 1 prize remaining, but I believe they're taking out all 3 of these Pokemon. They just need 3 to take out those back 2. That leaves 9. That is enough to take out the Volcanion. So taking out 3 Pokemon, and this Chi-Yu cannot take a KO. Next turn, wow, great turnaround from our Psychic player. Absolutely excellent play. Our Fire player really tried their best there to make sure they were setting themselves up the best way they possibly could. But I'm not sure they're going to be able to turn it around anymore. They just need to take 1 more prize, but I'm not sure how they'll piece it together this turn. They do have Clara in hand to get Pokemon back, but they can't then use that Blacksmith to power something up. They could use Blacksmith to power up this Chi-Yu to attack, but again, it's only going to do 50 damage because everything was taken out by damage counters and not damage from an attack. And this Chi-Yu, and against any other deck, would have been the saving grace, would have been able to win the game, but it cannot do quite enough damage. Clara getting 2 Pokemon and 2 energies. Question is, do they have a way to actually power those Pokemon back up this turn? I'm not sure that they do. Super Rod goes down. Looks like they are debating putting just 3 more Fire Energies back into the deck. But again, how are they going to power up something to actually attack this turn? Blacksmith and Welder are both now out of the question since Clara has already been used this turn. Magma Basin we know is also in the discards. They're not using that to get another energy in play. Gouging Fire does go down. See if they also bench that Volcanion. Yeah, with what's in the hand, to me it looks like game. I'm not sure what our fire player is potentially seeing. I mean, they can put an energy on this Chi-Yu and use Flarebringer. That will let them put 2 more energies in play. I mean, I guess their opponent does need to take 2 prizes still. So maybe what they're hoping is that they can power up this Gouging Fire in time and take the last prize. You know, I did forget that. For whatever reason, I was thinking that easily next turn Psychic just wins, but they don't. They need to take 2 prizes. They can't quite take out this Gouging Fire. Wouldn't be able to take a prize from that, so gonna likely take out the Chi-Yu. Does use that Flarebringer. You know, is there a light at the end of our tunnel for this fire player? Are they going to be able to stall for just this one more turn and take this final KO that they need? Psychic has played very well. Both of our players have really been playing their absolute hardest. Quick Ball goes down. No more Pokemon left there. Only 2 cards left in our Psychic player's deck. Shuffling those up. They do have the Judge Whistle. If there's any really weak Pokemon in the discard, though I think the lowest HP Pokemon that's there is the Charmander with 70 HP. And, you know, they could take that KO again, but can't do both the Chi-Yu and that Charmander. So still don't think there's any way for them to take 2 prizes this turn, unfortunately. Fire player may have actually found a way to come back into this game. They kept that Ember burning. Looked for any of their possible ways that they could win. Looks like player is going to retreat, go into that Comfy. Going to look at the last 2 cards in their deck. So Versus Seeker goes to the discard. Judge Whistle lets you get a Pokemon from your opponent's discard and put it on the bench, basic Pokemon specifically. Then uses Guzma. Ooh, stall play potentially. I'm gonna try to take out this Gouging Fire. At least put a lot of damage counters there. This will force their opponent to have a way to get multiple energies down, which they have. They have Welder as an option. They've got, I believe, is the Blacksmith no longer in hand? Looks like it's not. So using that Welder, gonna draw 3 cards. Do they get a fire energy? They don't. Oh no, is there any way for them to still take a KO this turn? Or did Psychic find the way to put the fire out? Fire's really thinking about what they can still do. You know, is there a way for them to get out of this situation? Man, they had shuffled in 3 more fire energies with that Super Rod. Increasing their chances the best they possibly could have with that Welder to then draw another energy. That Whistle putting the Charmander in play, even though they weren't able to KO it. If they can make sure that no more energy can go on this Gouging Fire this turn because of that. Looks like they got it. Psychic figured it out. Puts out the Fire player. Fire tried the best they could. Well played from both players. Another exciting game from both of these players. Congratulations. Looking forward to the next game.